everybody. So Jeff's going to be joining us in a minute, but in the run-up to this live Q&A, last week we had Rosie from Beacon and Blue, and she her live is available with all the other lives on our Q&A, which is in the links in our Instagram bio. So you can check out all of the previous Q&As there. So yeah, really useful resource with some really cool career questions, things like that in there too. If you haven't already, you can do our 2.6 challenge, which is on our Instagram. Instructions there. That's going to be wrapping up this Sunday. And then also there's a competition open at the moment for charities called Movement for Good, where you nominate a charity and they can win £1,000. And the link to that is in our bio, so please go ahead and go click on our stories. Well, the link's in our the link's not in our bio, it's on our stories, sorry. So go on our stories and you can swipe up, and the charity number's in our stories too, so it literally takes like 30 seconds and it'll help us. Yeah, hopefully Jeff Hester will be online soon, so he's this week's guest. And his background is filming, basically, underwater and terrestrial, so he does both, although I think he does mainly underwater, but we will find out soon in this interview, providing that he comes online soonish. Have we had a request yet, Hannah?
He's just said hello, so we're just waiting for him to request to join. He said he's having trouble joining. I'm sure he'll be here in a few seconds.
Hopefully he'll join us in a minute, but basically his background is photography and filming, so you can ask any questions as we go. We've been also submitted a heap of questions, so we are going to try and get through as many of them as we can. I doubt we'll get through all of them, so sorry in advance if we can't answer your specific question, but we will try our best to get through them. And obviously if you have any questions for me as well, then go ahead and submit them, and all of the conservation kind of side of things. To give you a bit of background on how Love the Oceans and Jeff know each other, so Jeff actually came out here as part of Photographers Without Borders, which we had the CEO of, Danielle, in a previous Q&A, so if you missed that, then you can check that out. If you're interested in photography, I definitely recommend checking that Q&A out. In 2016, out here being Mozambique at our base, where I am talking from. And
We have Jeff.
Yay!
Hello there. Sorry, I'm on my wife's phone because my front-facing camera doesn't work on my phone.
No worries, it's all good. Just a heads up, I can't really see, like there's a big lag in between what I can see and what I can hear, so I'm going to be responding to what I hear mostly. So instead of like thumbs up or anything, can you give a vocal okay or yes whenever we chat? That will help me loads.
Perfect, yes, we'll do.
Okay, and also for everyone that's tuning in, I'm talking to you from Mozambique, and this is basically being hosted by Hannah, our social media girl in England. So if I drop off the line, the live will still be continuing because I've actually WhatsApp called her and she's hosting it through her Instagram. Through Love the Ocean's Instagram. So on her phone. So if I drop out, then the live will still be there. Hannah and Jeff will tell some stand-up comedy jokes, and I'll be back online as soon as I can. Right?
Oh, it'll be awful, but we'll try.
Okay, so for our followers, do you want to just introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Jeff Hester, and I live in San Diego, California, actually. And I mostly do underwater camera work for, they call it like blue chip wildlife productions. So stuff like Our Planet, Blue Planet 2, Hostile Planet, like anything with planet in the name, that kind of work. But do a bit of drone as well.
Okay, cool. And for your followers that are tuning in that might not know what Love the Oceans is, basically we are a marine conservation charity based in Mozambique, and we are working to establish a marine protected area in our region, which is Jangab in Mozambique. So we do a heap of different research, community outreach, fisheries, humpback whales, coral reefs, ocean trash, megafauna. I think that's all of the research areas. I always forget one. And then we do 2 community outreach projects too. And Jeff, you've actually been out here, although I wasn't here when you were out here, so we've actually never met face to face, right? This is the closest we've come to meeting face to face.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, video calls, pretty much it.
Yeah. So we've been submitted loads of questions, and we can do our best to get through them all, but there are quite a lot. So if you're happy, should we just jump straight into it?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Cool, perfect. So the first one, how did you get started on your journey, and what has enabled you to get to where you are now?
Oh yeah, okay. So I got started on my journey. I think if I was thinking about it, if you ask any camera person how they got to where they are, it's typically a very different answer. But the foundation is mostly some type of unique experience or skill in the ocean in particular that kind of leads you to this point. So in college, I studied marine science, and most summers I spent doing internships and 3 different points or 3 different spots in the U.S. and all pretty much marine conservation oriented kind of stuff. And then after that, moved on to work at NOAA. And, a big thing in the industry that I'm in is that most of the stuff is animal behavior that I'm shooting. And so having this background in biology and marine science was kind of a big point of being able to get to where I'm at, because you can, recognize what the animals are doing and kind of pick it apart and create sequences out of it. And then after working for NOAA, I was selected as the North American Rolex Scholar for this organization called the Our World Underwater Scholarship Society. So it's quite a mouthful, but I was able to spend a year working with a bunch of different organizations and improving my skills as an underwater photographer and cameraman. And so those kinds of things really pushed me and helped me get to where I'm at. I think also assisting other people in the industry was a really big thing that accelerated my learning tenfold plus.
What do you mean by assisting other people in the industry?
Yeah, so going on initially when I started in the industry, I was assisting other cameramen that have already been doing this for decades, really. And so I would go out with them and mostly just be a safety diver or help set up camera equipment, help set up grip equipment, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so just learning from those guys and women was massive.
Yeah, learning on the job is always useful.
Yeah, exactly. Oops. Oh, did I lose you? What was that? Oh, I don't think I can hear you.
Give it a go.
Oh,
he's back.
Yeah, Jeff, so okay, cool.
Uh-oh, did I cut out?
Yeah. It's all good though, we can hear you now.
Oh,
how difficult has your journey been to achieving your goals?
Yeah, I think for me, being in the industry, shooting underwater camera work, it's come that aspect of it has come somewhat easily for me because it's something that I'm really passionate about and very driven to learn more and to push through the difficult times. I think that's one thing too, that it's not always rosy. It's not always just swimming with dolphins every day and magical experiences. Definitely that's part of it, but there are there are difficult times as well. I think the most difficult part for me is to be successful. It really takes a lot of networking and putting yourself out there. And I'm a pretty introverted person. And so it took a lot. I mean, it took a few years for me to like really be comfortable with approaching people and, you know, going to the wildlife film festivals and meeting other people in the industry to get them to hire me, basically. So I'd say that has kind of been the like biggest hurdle for me. You know, once I get in the water, it's like, I don't know, just everything feels right. So that part comes easy, but
yeah. One of the questions actually we had was around the like competitiveness of the underwater film industry. Have you found it to be really competitive?
Yeah, it's pretty competitive. There are a lot of people that want to do it. I think there's also a pretty big barrier to entry for some of the upper level filmmaking stuff. Like a lot of the stuff I do now is on rebreathers and with really expensive camera equipment that, you know, your average person's not going to be able to use. So that aspect's kind of like been the barrier to entry, which makes it a little bit less competitive, I think. That being said, that barrier to entry is getting smaller and smaller. Like I was thinking about it the other day, and you can get, you know, a top tier kind of camera setup for like less than $10,000 now, like camera and housing and all that. Whereas maybe 5 years ago, that would have been $60,000 plus. So it's kind of the same as the underwater photography world. I think underwater photography is a lot more competitive because that's even cheaper, and that barrier to entry has gotten really small. But yeah, but it's still definitely a very competitive industry. You have to take your time and work your way into it.
Yeah, technology is advancing really quickly. But then you use drones as well, so you must have seen, like, I remember watching with, I think it was Blue Planet, where they were talking about how drones have basically changed the way that they film, pretty much, because like before drones it was so difficult to film aerial shots and like way more expensive and a lot more effort and all the rest of it, and now we've got drones which we can just put up in the air and grab those shots.
Yeah, exactly. So that was definitely a big game changer too. That helped me get into what I do now as well, because I started doing drone work first. So I kind of, you know, something that was so new that, you know, I was able to learn that skill set fairly quickly, and that just enabled me to have a more competitive edge too, because I'm able to do drone work and underwater work, and so it makes me a little bit more hireable. But yeah, drones have completely revolutionized multiple industries. I mean, you get a really intimate perspective of animal behavior, you know, from that kind of plan view, top down look at things, and are really able to, you know, pick apart behavior and figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, I remember seeing the drone footage that you got of the whales out here, and I remember scrolling through like my Facebook feed, and I just saw like footage of whales, and I just thought like, oh, National Geographic or whatever. And then someone like sent it to me or brought it to my attention. I was like, wait, what? That's our whales? Because no one had filmed the whales by drone before, at least here. So it was like so cool to see something that like, and it's such a different perspective, as you say, like to see something that we see daily during whale season, but seeing it from that like aerial view, you can see so much more as well. And when the viz is good, you can see like all the babies with them and all the rest of it. It's, yeah, so cool to see. Yeah, very different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're in an incredible spot there in Mozambique. I mean, there's so much productivity, as you obviously know, because you're there and studying it. But I would recommend anyone who's watching to go volunteer with you, because it's one of the most amazing places on the planet.
Thanks. Yeah, we do love it. I'm excited to get the whales. We're due the whales. Well, actually, this time last year, the first whale had been sighted. So we're just going into whale season now. And we've got sponsored some stand-up paddleboards. And as soon as the whales are out in larger numbers, I'm going to be out on those paddleboards collecting data and deploying hydrophones and taking as many photos as possible.
Nice.
Hopefully those whale encounters.
There we go.
So, oh yeah, how did you learn filmography? Because you came from marine science background. How did you learn like camera work and all the rest of it? Did you do formal training, or was it something that you picked up as you went, or like how did you kind of get into it?
Yeah, so no, not really any formal training. Started initially in doing photography, and yeah, there you can learn like a lot of the basics of the camera, like, you know, how it's collecting light and all those things that translate to videography. So I'd say a lot of it was a combination of being self-taught over the years, and also kind of like I mentioned before, like assisting people who've been doing it for, you know, decades. So you just learn so much from them, and not only like, I think that's one of the things that I really like about videography is that there's a million different ways to tell a story, and I think so. It's not only the camera aspect that you get to learn from assisting people. It's like how to tell a story or a sequence in the most compelling way.
Yeah, I think storytelling is such a good skill, and different to like just taking photos or videos and not like telling a story with it. Yeah, very cool. Do you prefer filming or photography? And do you prefer it on land or underwater?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I think I mostly do video now, but sometimes I really do miss taking some photos. So, you know, I'll snap a few on shoots every now and again. But definitely prefer on water compared to land. There's something, I don't know. I love being on the ocean. I love being underwater. And, you know, there's that stat that it's like 5% of the ocean has been explored. So it just really feels like exploration a lot of times too. And feels like I'm able to experience things and capture things that maybe people haven't seen before. And that gets me really excited. And to be able to like share that with people and to like hopefully get them to really, you know, get excited about the ocean and want to, you know, appreciate it and conserve it and all those things.
Yeah, I do feel like people are now, I don't know, maybe I'm just in a bubble, but I do feel people are now kind of like being like, there's so much content like online these days that photos sometimes just don't cut it anymore. Like people love videos. Like I know that we have our most interactions on like videos rather than photos of, so like if we're doing something and I film it, then way more people like interact with that than they do with photos as well. So I think videos, like obviously they're good to like tell stories as well, because you can actually film and show multiple things going on, whereas photos you have to do like a photo series. So yeah, I kind of feel like more people interact with video these days as well, and it speaks to a lot more people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I would agree with that. I think, yeah, well, I don't know if this is true or not, but a thought that just popped into my head, that I feel like, you know, to be a really good photographer telling photo stories can almost be a little bit more difficult, because you don't have the luxury of, you know, I could film as much as I want and show as many clips in a row as I want to tell a story, whereas, you know, photo story typically can't do that. But I don't know, I have to analyze that thought a little bit more, whether or not it's true, but
yeah, still interesting topic though. What's been the most exciting animal to film or be around, and why?
Ooh, definitely humpback whales. Humpback whales are just, I don't know, I feel like they're just incredible. Like, you know, I love filming all types of whales and marine animals and marine mammals and sharks and all that. But for some reason, humpbacks just feel like, I don't know, I anthropomorphize them so much that they just feel like they each have their own little personalities and they're in their own little, society, and they'll come and interact with you. And there's so much behaviorally with them. I don't know, I just find them incredibly fascinating, and yeah, they're my favorite film.
Yeah, I was actually saying this the other day because the reason I went into marine bio was because of sharks, and so I've always been like sharks. And then the other day I was actually talking about whale sharks versus humpback whales, and I was saying that even though I love sharks, they're not the cleverest, whereas humpback whales are just so intelligent. So a whale shark will just kind of swim along, minding its own business. It might feed a little bit, but it doesn't really vary its behavior a huge amount. Whereas with humpback whales, you've got such a range of surface behavior, let alone underneath the surface as well. And it does, I definitely feel the same. It feels like each individual has their own personality, and I don't know, I guess it's because they're mammals, right? So it feels like they just know what's going on. They're really aware. Or at least that's how I feel about them. We're in the water with them and stuff, and we see them on dives and things here. It's really, I don't know, kind of form a connection, right?
Yeah, 100%, exactly. Yeah, and even for me at least, the experiences that I've had with other marine animals or marine mammals in particular, because I feel like they seem to be the most empathic, but humpback whales just top the list, because they'll come and be a few feet from you and stare you right in the eye, and there's it just seems like they're trying to figure you out or trying to form a connection. Exactly.
Yeah, and their eyes are so big as well. It's intimidating but also enchanting at the same time. It's really captivating.
Exactly.
With humpback whales, what and where has been your best experience?
Ooh, let's see. Probably I go with, so just did a shoot in Maui, right before all of the COVID stuff came up. And there was one experience in particular with a mom and a calf. And it was, hopped in the water with them. And, we'd been trying to approach and shoot mom and calves for about 3 weeks, I think, at that point. And to, some success, but once I hopped in the water with this mom and calf, the mom actually started pushing her calf toward me, and they got so close, right up in my personal space, and you just had this calf that was draped across the mom's nose, and and then the calf was just staring at me with its little giant eye, and then mom was turning, and it was just, I don't know, it was just such a magical moment where I think the mom was this thing that's in the water with us is okay. Let's kind of experience each other for a little bit. So that was just really special. Yeah.
I guess we're just tiny in comparison. We must be proportionally, basically cat size for them.
Yeah.
We're.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So even to the calf, I had another experience. It was probably top 3 as well in Tonga, where this calf, it was a pretty big, it had been, it was probably 5-6 weeks old, something like that. So it was a little bit larger calf, but just circled around me and was swishing its tail at me and putting its pec fin over my head. And for the first bit, I was like, oh man, this is amazing. This thing is so cute. But then I was realizing that this thing is massive, even though it's a baby, and it could still really hurt me, even though it's just, playing around. So it's kind of that moment of realization. Maybe I should be a little more careful here. But,
a couple of years ago, there was a big male that was doing peduncle throws in the water, which for people that don't know what they are, they're basically when the back half, when the whale throws the back half of its body out of the water and slams it down. And it's really, really powerful. It's makes the huge noise, makes a huge splash. And a couple of my volunteers were like, can we get in the water? And I was like, absolutely no. You will. Like, it is a strong no. You're not getting in the water. A whale that is doing peduncle throws.
Yes, yeah. But it's just playing, but it will kill you.
Yeah. It is massive and we are tiny.
Yeah, exactly.
So what has been your best scene that you've ever filmed underwater? Like, not necessarily with humpbacks, just like ever, with any animal or otherwise.
Okay. I would say best scene. Okay, well, it's not going to be underwater, but on the water. So my best scene was filming from a drone, I think, up in Monterey Bay, and it was the orca predation on gray whale calves. So it's really, really sad and really moving. But yeah, so basically we had been searching for a couple weeks, and that was what we were there to film. So in Monterey Bay, it's this point. Let me take it one step back. Gray whale migration is huge, goes up and down the west coast of North America, all the way south to the lagoons in Baja, and then they head, that's where they have their calves, and then they go all the way north to feed in the Arctic or around even to like Russia and those spots. So along their journey, they cross Monterey Bay, which Monterey Bay is like a big cut inland. So some of the moms choose to go and hug the coast, and they're pretty safe from the orcas, and some, for whatever reason, are like, okay, let's cut across because it's going to be faster, maybe, something like that. But it crosses over this canyon, which is a really great spot for orcas or killer whales to come up and sneak attack. And they love to munch on gray whale calves. So we were there trying to film that, and we had been out for weeks and weren't too successful. And finally we had this moment when, everything kind of came together. And the pod of orcas, it took them about 2 hours to, first they separate the calf from the mom, and then they drown it, and then they eat mostly just the tongue and the lower jaw. So it's extremely gruesome and really harrowing to watch. But at the same time, it's nature, and the orcas need to eat as well, and they had their own young that they need to feed. And so while it's incredibly sad, it was probably one of the most moving wildlife events that I've ever witnessed.
With that kind of stuff, have you ever had like, because I remember growing up, I saw like a photo of it's a really famous photo of a polar bear that's like stuck out at sea. And in school we had this whole like a debate about whether as a human you step in and help, or if you don't, and obviously like the outcome was basically it's nature, right? So have you ever had any moments where you wanted to like step in and help, but also knew that you couldn't, or did you, if it was like something that humans did or whatever?
Oops, so sorry. I think you cut out, or I might have cut out. What was that question?
Okay, no worries. Basically, I was just asking along those kind of lines of like harrowing stuff to watch. Have you ever had a situation where you've had, like, you've been watching something or filming something or in the field, and you've wanted to help but you can't for like whatever reason, or if you did help, if it was like entanglement or something like that that's human caused? Have you ever had any like really difficult situations where you've had to like either just step back and be like, no, I can't help, or like it's nature and I can't get involved, or have you stepped in or whatever? Have you had any situations like that?
Yeah. So for me, I feel like the line is kind of at if the thing that's going on is human caused, like if it is entangled, or if there's like plastic wrapped around it or fishing line or something like that, then I am happy to intervene at that point, because that's kind of our fault. But if it's something that is, if it's a natural predation event, then it's always sad. Or even if it's not a predation event, if it's, I don't know, it's just a sick animal or something like that, then I kind of always have to remove myself and remove my emotions from the situation, and just completely understand that I'm there to document that, and it's not really my place to intervene, I don't think.
Yeah, it's a really tricky subject.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt in danger or threatened by any animals that you've worked with or filmed?
I think most of the time, that's where my background of animal behavior kind of knowledge base helps a lot with that. And going into any new filming situation, always do a bunch of research of what the different animal behaviors are. And so I think it's mostly been with sharks, where you quickly realize that this is an aggressive behavior, and so you remove yourself from the situation, because a shark attack's not going to be good for either party. And so I don't think there have ever really been points where there have been points where I've been scared, but I think at that point it's like, okay, this is not good for the animal, so let's get back in the boat, or whatever that may be. But yeah, I think it really comes down to recognizing animal behavior and seeing that, like, okay, this thing is stressed, so let's just leave it alone, and things typically are fine from there.
Getting out of the situation before it escalates.
Yeah, exactly.
If you weren't doing this career, what do you think you'd be doing?
Ooh. Yeah, so when I was working at NOAA, I was working in marine mammal genetics, and I absolutely love genetics. So I think if I weren't working this career, I would do something along those lines. And I mean, we've got such amazing technology now with things like CRISPR, where you can do gene editing. There's just so much new technology and new information coming in that I think it's a really exciting field. So yeah, if I weren't doing this, I'd go into genetics. That's kind of my backup plan. I feel like my body, this job, it can be very like physically taxing. So I feel like my body's just going to shut down one day, and then it's like, okay, now it's time to hit the lab, and that's the backup plan.
Yeah, always good to have one.
Yeah.
And we had quite a lot of questions around from people that are like looking to get into underwater filming and that kind of industry. What affordable underwater camera would you recommend to beginners? It's a bit of a difficult question, because affordable obviously is different for everyone. But do you have like a recommendation for beginners who are looking to get into underwater filming for a beginner like camera?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, again, like you were saying, it's subjective to what's affordable, what your budget is. But I think GoPros are great now, fairly cheap. I think myself included, get into this mindset of like, I need the best equipment in order to tell the best stories, and that's not true at all. Like, there have been amazing stories that have been told with terrible equipment, terrible camera, or what would be considered terrible equipment, terrible cameras. So I think we all need to take kind of a step back and realize that the camera is just a tool to convey something. And obviously, depending on what you're shooting, like you're shooting a blue chip wildlife show, then you need kind of higher tier equipment. But if you're just trying to get into the industry, I would say, yeah, GoPros are great. If you have a budget for a little bit more than that, there's so many compact mirrorless cameras now that shoot 4K 60, fantastic image quality, and you can get interchangeable lenses. So that's another thing if you're wanting to shoot kind of like sequence work underwater, is really changing up the focal lengths. You need your wides to kind of establish, but then you're going to want to punch in and like really get the character of the animals. So kind of like step into something like that, like the Panasonic, maybe like the GH5S, or there's another company called Zcam that makes a little camera called the E2. But yeah, there's a million choices now that are fairly inexpensive. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting time to be in the industry.
You can also rent cameras, right? That's the thing that you can do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So a lot of people don't even own cameras that are camera people. They'll just have them rented in for shoots or for jobs or yeah, whatever they need to do. But yeah, if you're someone that wants to tell stories in your backyard or whatever, then sometimes it can be more cost efficient just to buy.
Yeah. I remember going to visit one of my friends at Falmouth Uni in the UK, and he was studying marine and natural history photography, and he took me into their university camera unit area, and they were allowed to use any of the equipment, and they just had to sign it in and out, and they could rent the more expensive equipment they had to pay rent for. And it was literally mind-blowing going in there. I remember looking at all the shelves being like, there's so much expensive equipment in here. So sometimes through universities and courses that they're doing, or even if you're not doing that course, I think it might be worth looking up whether you can rent from a university. Because if they've got a good film course, they will almost definitely have the equipment to go with it.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
and do you when you work with because you've worked with some really huge names, when you work with National Geographic and stuff, or this is probably more of a career question again, when you started working with National Geographic, did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them? How do you begin to make those connections with those big names?
Yeah, so a bit of a mix, I would say. So initially it was, and it depends too on what you want to do. So if you're trying to pitch your own film or pitch your own ideas, then it's more typical to reach out to them, especially if you're just starting out, and kind of pitch them the idea that you have, or, it's great if you have the means and can go meet with them in person. 'Cause I feel like personally, I get a lot more out of a face-to-face interaction than, a phone call or an email, and you can move things along a lot quicker. But on the sequence sides of things, typically there's a production company that is creating the program for National Geographic, and then that company is then the one that reaches out to me and says okay, we have these shoots that we're trying to do. Are you available? Or alternatively, sometimes too, there's some sequence ideas that I have out here in California, and I'll pitch them to those production companies to fill space in their show, kind of idea.
Yeah, so it's working with those production companies as well that's important there.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of them are Bristol based, so there's a lot of
and when you were talking about working with others when you were first getting started, working with other people in the industry, learning from them, do you take interns or volunteers with you to assist you
now? Occasionally, not super often, mostly because what I do, or the people that I need to help me on shoots are pretty specialized skill sets. So they need to have a rebreather certification, have quite a few hours, be really, really comfortable underwater. That's kind of utmost, honestly, is you need to be super comfortable underwater. Because a lot of times when we're shooting, or when I'm shooting, I'm not necessarily looking out for my buddy. I try to every once in a while look back. And then I think that's another point too of as you're if you're someone who's trying to work your way into the industry, start developing those skill sets that are going to be useful for being able to assist people, or that you're going to need down the road. Because I feel like a lot of times you kind of reach out to people and are like, hey, I want to help you, but you don't always necessarily have the skills to help that person. So I think, if you reach out to someone, kind of maybe address it more as what are the things that I can do that would be useful for you? And then go and do those things if you want to pursue them, and then reach back out and be like, hey, cool, I got this certification, and I can do this now. Or if there's something that's you have this really cool animal behavior that you saw and that you think would be that you think could turn into a sequence, then you could reach out to a camera person and be like, hey, this is really interesting. Like, I really admire your work, and I would love to work with you on this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's every industry as well. Like, if you want to get if you're trying to break into the industry and stuff, like approaching people, asking what the skill sets they need in their assistants, in their interns, in their volunteers, whatever, then going away and getting them and coming back shows that extra like passion that you're willing to do that extra work, so that you can work with that person or that organization or whatever. Are you still there? Can you still hear me?
He's just buffering, I think.
Oh no. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me all right? Yeah, you just broke up there. Did you hear what I said about any industry?
Definitely, 100%. And I feel like those are the people that I've worked with year after year, are the ones that reached out to me initially and were kind of like, hey, what can I do? And then I've gone out, gotten those skills, and then come back to me, and it's like, I think that shows a lot that you're really, dedicated to this, and that you like really, really want to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And have you, last question of our ones that were submitted, have you got any advice or any tips for anyone looking to get into the industry? We had someone say that they've got a camera and they've got loads of passion, but they haven't got any budget. What would you recommend? What would your advice and tips be for them?
Yeah, I would say, like, stay persistent. It's going to take some time, and I think really, really keep at it. Like, if it's something that you really want to do, yeah, like I was saying before, like, build the skills that you need to do well in the industry. And I say too, like, if you have a camera and you have passion for it, like, just start shooting stuff. Like, that's how you're going to learn. And as much as you can, like, shoot stuff, put together sequences and stories, and then get people that you can send it off to that will give you honest critique. And I think that's going to push you farther. And the longer, it took me a few years to kind of like work my way in, for sure. And so I think, like, yeah, just stay persistent.
Persistence is key. Okay, cool. We've got some quick fire questions that we ask all of our interviewees. So if you're cool with it, we'll run through them. There's 11 of them, and they're just quick questions.
Okay. Fire round.
Yeah. Okay. Favorite ocean creature?
Favorite ocean creature is I can't remember the common name for it. It's Locus atlanticus. So it's this nudibranch that's pelagic. And actually, the first time I saw one was when I came out to Love the Oceans in Mozambique. But it's this super cool nudibranch that eats Portuguese man-o-war and then can incorporate the cells into its cerata and then use that as defense. But it looks like this little, like, blue Pokemon, basically.
Yeah, I think it's I think you're talking about sea dragons. I think they're called sea dragons.
Yeah.
I'll double check that afterwards, though.
No, that's right. Yeah, sea dragon.
Okay. Favorite day of the week?
Tuesday. I think I was thinking about it, and I didn't realize I had a favorite day of the week until I really thought about it. And yeah, Tuesday is typically a day that I get a lot of, like, emails for some reason about exciting projects. And it's also a day of the week that there's just, like, a lot of little reasons why I was realizing it's my favorite day of the week. But I feel like you can typically get in, like, rental equipment before the weekend and, like, not have to pay for expedited shipping and, yeah, just weird things.
Yeah. Plan plastic-free or eco product that you can't live without?
That would be my coffee mug, my Contigo, like stainless steel, because I drink a lot of coffee.
Yep, coffee in the morning is essential. Favorite beach in the world?
La Jolla Shores. So it's one that's right in my backyard. But yeah, it's like 15 minutes away from me. But I think it's an extremely underrated. It's temperate water, so it's a little bit colder, but it's got tons of, I don't know, cool animals, cool life, lots of different ecosystems in a really small area.
Nice. Last song you listened to?
So I'm kind of I'm a big fan of like 90s and early 2000s hip hop and rap. So the last song I listened to was What's Love by Fat Joe and Ashanti.
Nice, okay. I'll look it up. Dolphins or sharks?
What was that?
Dolphins or sharks?
Ooh, okay, I'm gonna side with sharks. Dolphins get enough love. I think sharks need a lot more love.
Yeah, definitely. Favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? My favorite holiday growing up was 4th of July, which for people that aren't in the U.S. probably don't know what that is. That's our Independence Day, basically. But it was completely for the fireworks. Like my first job when I was 11 or 12 years old was picking berries in a field, and I think I got paid like $2 an hour. I'm pretty sure it was slave labor. But I basically spent all my earnings from picking berries, which is like $200, to go and buy fireworks. So Independence Day is pretty exciting. I think now it's probably Thanksgiving, which also, if you're not in the U.S., you might not understand. But it's just pretty exciting, fun day for like lots of family to get together.
Yeah. Would you rather be able to speak to every, I think I know the answer to this one, but would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to speak to animals?
Speak to animals.
Said every biologist ever.
Yeah, exactly.
As a superpower, teleportation or breathing underwater?
Breathing underwater, 100%. I'd probably never come back on land, though, so my wife might be upset with me.
Yeah, although one of our Q&A guests the other day explained, like, that if you could teleport, then you could actually, like, teleport up from diving, right, and, like, grab a breath and teleport down, or, like, refill a tank. Teleport down.
That's true. That's true. Sneak a tank, get back down.
Yeah, and what book would you take on a desert island with you?
Ooh, I would take it's definitely like a marine biologist book, but it's The Log from the Sea of Cortez by John Steinbeck. Steinbeck is
nice. First thing you're going to do after lockdown?
I've kind of been sneaking out a little bit to get out to the Channel Islands off of California to go diving, but I think so. Before lockdown,
So harbour seals, sorry, you just broke up. Harbour seals would be what you're going to first go and dive with when you're out of lockdown.
He's just loading again. I think we've lost him.
Okay. Don't worry. He'll come on.
am I back?
Yeah, Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Sorry, that last question just got lost in cutting up. You said that you're going to go see harbour seals when you're out of lockdown. First thing.
Yeah. Go swim with the harbor seals. Yeah, just in La Jolla. So they just pupped. They finished pupping, I think, beginning of April. So there's about 50 new little harbor seals cruising around out there.
Very cute. Cool. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting. Do you want to answer any questions that have been submitted, or do you want to say anything else to the audience before I wrap up?
Let's see. I don't see any questions that came through. But yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. And it's fun to chat about the ocean for a little bit. And yeah, appreciate everyone for joining.
Yeah, hopefully you'll be able to get back out here at some point when traveling is a thing again. Fingers crossed. And thanks so much for joining us. For everyone that might have missed some of this interview, then you can watch the whole Q&A series by following the link in our bio, and you can see the other guests that we've had on there as well. This will be on our story for 24 hours after from now, and you'll be able to see it past that on our YouTube channel, so you can follow that there. And we'll be back next week with another guest. But thank you very much, Jeff, for chatting with us. And is it all right if I say that if people have questions, they can contact you on Instagram, or they can send us the questions and we'll forward them to you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, please ask me anything.
We've had a question from Andrea submitted. She wants to know, when are you coming back to Mozambique, Jeff?
Soon, hopefully. No, I'd love to get back as soon as possible. I can't believe it's been 4 years. That's crazy. But yeah. Once travel bans are lifted.
In that time too.
Yeah.
A lot has changed in that time.
Yeah. And seriously, like, if anyone that's watching from my followers or whatever, go check out Love the Oceans, because they're doing incredible stuff in Mozambique, not just in marine protected areas, but in the community and everything. It's amazing.
Thanks. We try our best. Our feed isn't super. We're struggling to create like day-to-day content at the moment, because obviously there's not a lot going on, but we will be doing our best to keep everyone engaged and interested in what we're doing. And I'll be posting updates weekly about what we do on the ground, because there is little bits and bobs that we can do with our stand-up paddleboard research and things like that. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, then go ahead and send them to Jeff or us or whatever. But thanks very much, Jeff. And have a great day, because you're in a different time zone. So have a great day.
Yeah.
Soon.
Thanks again for having me. Yeah, I'm going to have my second cup of coffee this morning.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thanks.
Ciao.
All right, take care.